This is Positive Impact episode, I want to say in the low tens now. As always, we're talking with an impact entrepreneur, someone who has established business and yeah, has made a world of difference through their product. Josh, you care to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Josh Schmidt. I am co-founder of Puribag Water. We trade as Puribag. We are actually Crackwell, which means priority water. So the ethos and origins in which we started the company were around providing safe drinking water, typically in an emergency or disaster situation. So that was a pivot out of a previous startup, but allowed us to sort of dive down the rabbit hole of trying to solve a problem for our time, which is access to safe drinking water under normal circumstances, but also, or particularly in, you know, emergency and disaster relief sort of situation as well.
Yeah, so amazingly charitable, and it's a wonderful product. How did like the onus of it start? When did you think this is something you can make?
Um, it's funny you say that. We were based in Australia at the time. We patented some IP around a novel wine closure, and it had a chamber on the underside. And so as a result of going down that journey and the wine industry being a very traditional one and one that's not necessarily accepting of all change, we started thinking about whether or not we could take the same principle that we had IP around and then put a compound in that could treat water. So we started going down the path of, we create a closure or a lid that had a water treatment compound in it? And there were issues around like uniformity of bottles and things like that. So what we decided to do was take a look at what was in the marketplace, what was currently sort of being accepted, what was going out of business or not. And then we took a look at what kind of water treatment compounds were out there. So it gave us an opportunity to try and reverse engineer a few things, but also then design something novel and sort of pick apart what we thought were competitive advantages versus what we thought could be improved upon. And that led to the creation of this guy, which thanks to some incredible work from our partners, went viral in the last couple of years due to the aesthetic nature of it, and has allowed us to really push forward and try and drive something through commercialization and expand the product range as well.
I have a question right off the bat, which is how have you survived off your own water bottle, like water product in the wild? Have you had to do this before?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can sit there at hand on heart and say that this is something that you should use if you haven't used it yourself. So I was doing a photo shoot when I was residing in Tennessee. I've relocated to Texas recently, but we were in Shelby Bottoms, just out in East Nashville. Picked some water up from a dirty mud hole. A lot of passers-by were like, "Are you going to drink that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," and then just connected the hose and put it on and had no issues at all. And then also, in Australia when we were testing it, both my brother and I, like time and time again, just chugging out of that thing, making sure that it works, and then no issues on the backside. We left the science to Procter and Gamble, and we take care of the rest.
That makes sense. I can ask the same question. So we get that question all the time. So I've had a
You eat pet food?
yeah, like people ask us, they're like, "Have you tried it yourself?" I'm going to say at this point in time, I've seen over 100 people eat it, so no shortage of samples. And generally, and this is something that my mom watches this, so I'm embarrassed to admit this, but generally, we accompany them.
Yeah.
So it's like fine, yeah, just like it's human grade product. Just have a quick bite, it'll be all right. And it it's always said they don't eat alone. It's this notion of like okay, we'll both have a
Yeah. I think you could have like a nice bowl of ramen or something, get some pho, get the broth, and throw in the silver carp, and just let it dissolve a little bit. What do you think?
it's great. So when we first started using the silver carp, I went to a local fishery, and there's it's a, I mean a fish, I guess a local fish market, and I tried the fish myself. So I was like, I was really curious. I mean, not that my palatability is the same as a dog's, but we really should know what this tastes like before we start marketing it to thousands, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dogs, cats. How did Mo like it? Did Mo already get his paws on it?
Yeah, he's particular, but he went and enjoyed that one straight away for sure. He's I think if we we may have to like add a bit of gravy to it just because he's a bit of a fiend when it comes to that, as opposed to the dry dehydrated stuff. But perfect travel treat in that respect. And so that brings me to one thing I do need to say to you. I mentioned it previously, but I think, and I hope that the listeners of this podcast will adopt this. But I think we need to refer you as Gabe, the new prince of pet food in Chicagoland. Um, just just throwing it out there. It works. It works for me.
Prince of pet food. I love that.
I will. I'm going to change your. I'm going to change your name in my phone, just so you know.
I don't think I deserve the title of royalty. I maybe Duke or Count.
Does Earl flow as well? Like Earl of pet food? I mean,
I accept, and I was gonna ask about Mo before I forgot. We'll get a picture of Mo in so we can do a little like Luigi Mo plant. Do you want to tell us a little bit how you came to acquire Mo and like what you feed Mo and just like your pet ownership journey?
yeah, sure. So I am a stepfather, I guess you could say. So I moved to the US in February of 2020, just beat out COVID, and have known my partner for a very long time, over a decade or more. And so when COVID hit, we made the decision to sort of hunker down domestically. That came with an 11-year-old Russian Blue who was taken from or adopted from Lubbock, Texas. So very familiar with cotton gins and tumbleweeds is that man. So for me, he's been a great sense of relief, a great source of comfort in what's been a pretty tumultuous time in the last few years. He's a beautiful big grey boy. He's about 16 pounds. I think it's his birthday this weekend. So as strange as that sounds to say, last year we gave him a crown and a candle and things like that. So he was very curious about turning 15, and now he's ready to drive. So for me, it's been pretty.
You can get a permit.
He's you know as he ages, I guess he definitely wants to soften up a few of the things that he eats. So he he does get some of the dry food, which is more like sensitive stomach and things like that. And then as I said, he's just a bit of a fiend for gravy. So what can you do?
I know. This is one of the things that we talk about all the time, which is how can we start doing our own gravy products? So we started poking around this concept. I think the fish really readily lends itself to be put into gravies. Um, but we're trying to avoid having like a highly processed version of the treat. So it's a careful balancing act and definitely something in scope for us. I will say that my cat, I'm also a stepfather to a an older kitty. Well, now this is where we put in Molly as the Molly Molly Mayhem. Um, she's a Polynesian, which is like this big white poofy cat who is 14, and she's the same way. She'll take the bites in small portions, but in terms of what she like craves, it's these gravies.
Yeah, I think it's the salt, it's the liquid. I don't know what it is. It's just being particular and wanting to, I think, irk us as cat dads to be like, yep, I want that. Try it. No, I don't want that anymore. And then you've gone and driven a PetSmart or got it from Chewy.com or something like that.
She's a very hard and difficult test subject for these types of things. We're nearing time, so there's a couple things that I always ask at the end. If there's what things that you want to plug, things that you're talking about, or you think would be interested to kind of show, this would be a good time for it.
Okay, so we've just launched a new product, which we're pretty excited about. We're wanting to step away from a chemical treatment range and more towards the filter side of things. So we've launched our own version of what people would know as a camelback, a backpack with a bladder. But where ours is different now is that ours comes with two hoses, one of which you can imagine it's just you fill up with the water from your house and then you head out and go for a hike. The other hose that comes with it that you would sit in the backpack as well actually has a membrane filter inside of it. So the idea is that if you're going out on an adventure, nothing should stop you staying on your adventure and enjoying what that adventure brings. So it actually allows you to then switch the hoses out once you've found a source that you might not necessarily trust, allows you to just plug, clip, and keep on going so that if you grab the water from a lake or something that you've gone to and you don't necessarily feel like it's safe enough, then you can just simply swap out the hoses and you can just carry on your way, as opposed to needing to carry the water with you or potentially stopping when you exhaust your camelback or your bladder. And, as the weather is what it is these days, you kind of know it's quite hot out. So, want to make sure you're never without water. So that's what we've brought out.
Good plug for pets too, for pet owners who are going out with their dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, they're just as susceptible as we are. And I think, 100, sort of 105, you can kind of experience like burn on the feet as well. So ensuring, particularly your dog, if you want to go out on a hike or something, making sure they've got access to safe water because they're just as susceptible as us. So, that's a big one.
I do have a quick question for you that we'll conclude. But do you have any comment on like American water right from the tap? I've been really curious about this, right? So my dad is a filter obsessed. Um, would be curious to hear whether you think certain waterways are better or worse. And yeah, like there's also people who just drink nothing but bottled.
Oh man, look, you definitely put me on the spot here. There's a ton of good products out there. I know the Berkey and things like that are really popular. Brita's done a great job in terms of the household stuff. I can't bring myself personally to just drink bottles of water, especially if I'm at home, because the wastage is too high. Um, and not every state, particularly in the south, is really well set up for recycling and recycling of plastic and making sure that all of that is treated the right way. So um, I've got no issues about drinking water from the tap. Again, I live in Dallas right now. I was in Nashville previously. No issues, but typically for longevity and things like that, I will run it through a filter just so there's a little cleanup in case there's anything fluorides and otherwise that might be too highly concentrated in the water.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a water filtration expert, there's a temptation to check every water and every place that you would go. Like, oh, I'm in Nashville.
Hey, I didn't throw the expert word out there, Gabe. That was you, Prince. So I'm definitely not trying not trying to claim any of that. But absolutely, I mean, there's so much around in the world around us, from microplastics to the trials and troubles of sort of Flint, Michigan, and places like that, due to infrastructure and otherwise, have been like long, long brought into the public sphere. So I don't think it hurts to have a filter available in your house, and for peace of mind, if you want to do that, then you're more than welcome to. And I think the guest of honor's just arrived, so bear with me for 1 second. How's the timing for this guy? He's just stepped up, wants to say hi, and he's a little confused right now, but he's going to get himself a silver cup treat after this. His timing was spectacular.
I love that. All right. Thank you, Josh. I'm going to stop the recording and we can chit chat here for a sec.